up, everybody? It's your boy Chaz Pearson, and this is the Outlet Forum with my esteemed co-host Chris Camello. What up, Chris?
What up, Chaz? You know, revenge is a dish best served. How do I say this? Lucad.
Ah, man, we got another great show for you guys coming up this week. Did Luka Doncic really get revenge on the Mavericks? And we got a special guest in tonight's show. Eric Pincus will be joining the show to talk all things Lakers, NBA buyout market, and also who are the beasts of the East? Are the Cavs or the Celtics the team to beat and will make the finals coming out of the East? But Chris, we got to get into first, man. Like the NBA is just on a night to night basis doing everything they can to entertain us. What do you make of just the games lately and what you've been seeing on the court?
Yeah, it's certainly nice when football season is now in everybody's rearview mirror and baseball's not quite there yet. So they're able to really flex their muscle. But also, too, I think the level of competition has really started to pick up. Teams are fighting for playoff position. Teams are trying to move up in the standings. Teams are trying to get into the play-in, move out of the play-in. And there's just been, I mean, all the trades too that happened before that. Now everybody is intrigued to see how much of a difference these new players will look in their respectively new new respective teams. So it's really been fun to watch now, and you're starting to see the light at the end of that tunnel. That the playoffs are right around the corner. So every game with about 25 give or take left in the season for a lot of these teams. Every game is crucial, including
It's
for the LA Lakers.
and it is about that time because the Lakers are doing their thing right now. They beat the Mavericks 107-99 in a great I thought was a great game. It had all the height, intensity, all the drama, everything you needed. Luca dropping a triple double, his first as a Laker. The You buried the lead, but LeBron James was the best player on the floor with 26 points. Played all 12 minutes of the fourth quarter. Pretty much guided the Lakers to that win because they just kept giving up three after three to Kyrie, and Klay Thompson was Game Six Klay in last night's game. So I love what the Mavericks are doing. I love the fact that they do have an actual good squad, but obviously my Lakers, our Lakers, are just that team right now. They've won, I believe, 14 of their last 18. JJ Redick is smiling on the court. You got Luca going up and down, screaming at Nico Harrison. Everybody in crypto.com arena chanting, "Thank you, Nico." Man, I love it. I love it. This is just part of the game, and this is part of what we do and what we love. And that support, your squad. And even if the Lakers weren't my squad, this would be just a
Major
story
story.
that I would be all over and just interested in. But the fact that it's my favorite team. I mean, you see Kobe right here. We continually get star after star after star. And I thought about it, Chris. Like if I wasn't a Laker fan, man, I mean, I would hate the Lakers, to be truly honest with you. They just keep getting player after player after player, and somehow, some way, they just keep turning it over in terms of the stars. But Chris, what did you make of not only the win last night? Let's get into obviously the
Yeah,
actual game, but also did you think that anything else was going to happen, like Luca playing better, or I don't know,
for sure.
maybe Nico Harrison going up to Luca and dapping him pregame, which obviously he didn't.
Well, obviously, yeah, to answer the last part first, the wound is still very fresh. That's what it is. You're not going to see Nico Harrison and Luka Doncic be buddy because you basically traded off a 25-year-old global superstar who gave a lot to the Dallas Mavericks organization over the last 6.5, going on 7 years. I mean, and this guy put the Dallas Mavericks back on the map, Luka Doncic, really from his rookie season. But he got them into the playoffs within his second year of the team, and they really haven't looked back since. In 2 of the last 3 years, they have gone to the Western Conference Finals twice. And then, of course, last year, as a 5 seed, went to the NBA Finals, beating some really good teams along the way. So I think everyone thought that Luka was not only going to be with the Mavericks for a long time, maybe even for the rest of his career. So now that whole thing gets sort of shattered, right? And now he gets traded abruptly, a trade that caught the entire sports world by storm. and really caught everyone off guard. Now he's with the Lakers. It's a new environment. He was coming off of a calf injury. You're trying to learn a new system with new teammates and playing now. You go from being the guy in Dallas to now essentially LeBron's number two. And I know everyone's going to say, oh, well, it's going to be Luka's team. Yeah, but right now you don't just get the keys handed to you right away. You know what I mean? And certainly you don't get them handed to you mid-season. So yeah, you had to account for a couple of things. The rust factor and learning a new situation and dealing with whatever anger, betrayal, whatever you were feeling. You're dealing with a lot of things at once. So that's why everyone was like, oh, he looked terrible against Utah. He looked terrible against Charlotte. The guy had not played in 6 weeks, and he gets traded abruptly. So he's dealing with it on the physical side and on the mental side. But I thought that Denver game was a major step in the right direction. They went into Ball Arena in Denver against a team that's beaten them 14 times, including the playoffs, and they put the beat down on Denver.
Man.
That was a game. But Chaz, like I always say, as impressive as one game is, the game that follows is the ultimate test. Why? Because it's very easy to have a letdown, and they did not have a letdown against a scrappy Dallas Mavericks team who, despite all the injuries to their front court, including to Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, they have found a way to continue to stay competitive and win ball games. And that was a playoff type atmosphere. That was a playoff type game. Luka brought it. Luka brought it for 3 quarters. LeBron took him home in the 4th. Reeves was solid. Hachimura, Dorian Finney-Smith, 3 or 4 winning plays at the end. He's becoming kind of like what Alex Caruso was years ago with the Lakers. There's a lot to like with this team right now.
Yeah.
Well,
Dorian
struggling,
Finney-Smith, Gabe Vincent,
Doe has been
Vanderbilt. But I'm talking about on the defensive end, making the plays that they need to, the winning plays to get you extra possessions to even be in a position to close out a game like that. I want to take it a little bit further. I want to just focus on the fact that, yeah, Luka, that was the story and everything like that. But underneath all of that, the most important thing to me is the fact that LeBron James is playing at an even more efficient level than he was prior to Luka coming on the team. He was obviously in a better groove than he was earlier in the year when he had to sit out a few days or a few games, with the foot injury and everything like that. He was away from the team early in the season. Everybody, wondering where is he going to lead the Lakers? Is he going to ask for a trade? No, he's done this before. He just did it earlier in the season than he normally did. But now he's playing at an efficient level. He's averaging over 27 a game over the course of the last 10, 15 games. And this is LeBron I'm talking about. And I think that he's able to do more because he's able to conserve certain levels of energy because he doesn't have to set the table for everybody because he has a player like Luka who's going to command a double team and get him open for a left wing shot, which he hit last night to put the Lakers up 91-88 down the stretch when he really needed a big shot. So he's fresher down the stretch. He doesn't have to set the table. And we just saw this version of him 6 months ago in Paris playing for Team USA. So the fact that he just did this and he's playing with another player that can set the table, like Steph Curry, like Kevin Durant, like Devin Booker, like, anybody else that was on that team. Well, obviously, I think that was it for table setters for Team USA last year. But the fact that he doesn't have to do as much, Ant-Man, but he wasn't really like. But I guess the point I want to get to is that LeBron James was the best player in that tournament. And he's still I think he's a top 5 player in the NBA right now. There's a good chance for him to make all NBA first team if he continues to play the way that he's playing right now. He's definitely going to get second team.
And he's closing in on 50,000. He's closing in on 50,000 points. Wanted to point that out.
Is he really? No, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not closing. He's not closing in, but
no, he's not closing in.
But
I think he's at like 45,000.
Yeah, I don't think he'll make it there ultimately. But at the end of the day, he has the best shot to win his 5th championship that he probably has had since 2021, when Solomon Hill rolled into his ankle. So,
terrible.
Man, I just really think that the Lakers have a really good chance. Love the story with Luka. Thank you, Nico. But The fact that it makes the NBA even that much more interesting than it already was makes for a good second
Hey,
stretch after the All-Star break. Go ahead.
I know we have another topic, but I also think this is where Dallas, I don't like these negative stories about the trade that are coming out. Oh, we were concerned about the beer drinking. Oh, we were concerned about hookah. We were concerned about all these things. Like, okay, is that, but is trading him like that abruptly, if you had these concerns, like considering that the guy is 25 years old and still trying to mature, like a lot of guys don't focus on diet and nutrition and clean living until sort of the back nine of their career, like Tom Brady, even LeBron, even Kobe. Kobe was eating McDonald's for like he would like say with a smile on his face. They asked him one time, Kobe, what'd you have before a game? Oh, I ate McDonald's. He said it right before a game they took on in Sacramento.
Fish fillet
Larry Bird, yeah, Larry Bird used to drink Budweiser like during the
at
season. These
halftime.
guys do certain things. What? Yeah, exactly. I mean, shoot, and some of these guys used to dip. So I mean, let's not act like all of these things were major concerns, because if you were that concerned about his weight, that concerned about his living, and the guy is still busting everybody's ass, leading the league in scoring, being a top 5 player, being an all NBA player, being an MVP candidate, like, I mean, I don't think that those were the reasons why they lost to Boston. That's the thing. But clearly, I think what this all came down to at the end of the day, Chaz, they, just like with Miami and Jimmy Butler, we did not want to pay that extension. We did not want to pay the supermax. So now we are going to trade him before a bidding war happens and he loses value, and we're just going to move on, and then we're going to paint him out in a negative light, or whoever's leaking this, painting him out into a negative light. And I just think it's sort of overkill at this point. He's gone. You traded him. Don't try to justify it after the fact, okay? Because nothing you say short of finding out Luka is an abuser or something like that is going to change the Mavericks fans' minds that you screwed up and you made a bad decision.
So I believe you're commenting on the article that came out today from The Athletic that Sam Amick wrote.
Yes.
Um, and in that article,
and I'm just tired of hearing all this negative stuff, man.
I mean, I get it, but here's the thing. It's been what, 3 weeks since the trade, and we didn't know
Going
anything
on four.
before it came out. So it's just been 3 weeks of finding
We
out.
thought Shams was hacked.
I know, but it's been 3 weeks of finding out information over and over and over again that we didn't have before, that is getting leaked out now. So I get it. Dallas has to save face. They have to say what they have to say in terms of trying to justify the trade, but it is what it is. And I'm tired of hearing about it too, but it's just painting them in a worse light. And to be honest with you, it is what it is. Like, if that's really how they felt, then they're justified in saying so. We saw Michael Finley take the beer
Exactly.
from Luca after they won the West, before they went to the finals. We've seen, him drinking beer or playing, smoking hookah or whatever the case may be. My point is that he was doing all that and was still 5-time All NBA. Not like, oh man, he's gonna crash out and it's gonna be catastrophic within the next 5 years, which is part of the quote that Sam Amick wrote in this article. But look, man, at the end of the day, I don't really care personally about any of those comments, because guess what? Two things. They're probably true, everything that's being said. It doesn't justify them trading him, but I could care less, because those step back threes that Luca hits, somebody tweeted, man, those should count for like 8 points. They do. They feel like how an alley oop counts for like 4 points sometimes, because it just gets the momentum going. Like a step back Luca three, when he's screaming at in somebody's face, just makes for such great theater and such great momentum for the Lakers or whatever team he's on. It
Absolutely.
used to be the Mavericks. Like, the Mavericks, did they forget that he dropped 73 in a game before? Did they forget? Like,
Did they forget that he led
I
the
don't
league
get
in
it.
scoring last
It's
year at
like
34 a
I'm
game?
still
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. Like, okay, Shaq, we knew, was sort of at the end of the road. We were mentally prepared in 2004
no,
for
we
that
weren't.
trade to happen. And
No,
even
we
then,
weren't,
Chaz,
Chris.
well, hold on. Oh, we were meant to, hold on, let me
Sorry.
finish. We were mentally prepared that the fact that Kobe and Shaq might not be teammates next year. Whether it was going to be Kobe leaving or Shaq leaving, we knew that this partnership had kind of reached its plateau. However, even then, my point is, even then, even though we were mentally prepared for it, it was still a shock that Shaq got traded, right? So imagine that. Go back 20 years, and now fast forward to 2025, Luka not seeing this, Dallas fans not seeing this, and then he ultimately gets traded and the rug gets pulled out. I mean, that is some shockwaves right there, man.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Anyway,
It is. And we're not probably not going to get used to it for the rest of the season. If
definitely
we
not.
probably won't be used to seeing Luca in a Laker jersey until like, I don't know, September, October of next season when next season begins. Something like that. I don't know. But yeah, man, we got a lot to get into and a lot more other topics to get into around the NBA. But first, it's time for our special guest to be brought on. Chris, take it from here.
Absolutely. Well, are you going to bring him up on the screen, or do you want me to just start
I thought you were gonna
introing our
go
special
ahead and start
guest?
introing.
Oh, here we go. So, just to say, I have known this gentleman for 10 years. We have covered the LA Defenders back when they were the Defenders together. He is a national NBA writer for Bleacher Report. He's also the general manager for Sports Business Class. Also, they joke sometimes on the radio that he is a capologist. It is a pleasure to bring on my friend and esteemed colleague, the great Eric Pincus. Eric, thank you for
Hey,
joining
thanks
us,
for having
man.
me. I got to live up to all that. Sounds good. All right. How you been?
A
How's it
hell of an
going?
intro.
Well, let me tell a quick story about how I want to tell a quick story. So Eric and I first met Eric at an LA Defenders game back when they were, which is the Lakers. Now it's called the G League. Back then it was called the D League, the affiliate for the LA Lakers over at El Segundo at the Toyota Sports Arena. And the thing was, like, I'm sitting next to this guy, and he was so down to earth, so cool. I remember Daryl Morey was sitting right next to us too, Eric, and I didn't even know who Daryl Morey was. And then he's just like, that's the GM of the Rockets, right? I'm like, no way. And Daryl was so cool as well. So I've seen Eric passing in the halls for years, whether it be in the G League, whether it be for the Clipper home games and stuff. And he has always been class personified. So not only consider you a colleague, Eric, I consider you a friend. And
Awesome.
I just want to say that before we get into all the
Yeah, no, I
questions
appreciate all
and
that. I
whatnot.
remember
So I
that well.
appreciate you
Yeah,
being
Daryl
on.
was there with his wife, and it was, what was it? The late Darius Morris. I think he passed. Yeah, he was playing in
Wow.
that game. So, yeah,
On the team, yeah.
yeah, no, but very cool. Good memory. I definitely remember that one. And yeah, I'm ready to talk hoops. Let's see what you got for me today. What are we gonna touch on?
Yes, sir.
Well, Eric, we were just getting into talking all things Lakers and Luca as well, but this we're specifically talking about this article that Sam Amick of the Athletic dropped today, and it's just continual information, I guess, or word vomit about Luca that's kicking him on the way out the door. What do you make of some of the comments that are coming out of Dallas now that he is in a Laker uniform? And what did you make of his performance last night in his first game against the Mavericks?
Well, I mean, the easy question is, I mean, he played really well. You could tell there were some nerves. He's still not. I mean, if you don't play since Christmas, so what, 2.5 months or so, it doesn't matter what level you are. You're going to be a little rusty. It's going to take some time for you to get everything back. So he's not shooting quite, brilliantly yet. But I mean, the behind the back pass, behind the head pass, I don't know what the heck that was. He's a heck of a player. It's
Man, it was great.
ridiculous, right? So that takes to like the actual meteor question, which is like, what do I think about what they're saying? And like, they're not saying it necessarily with their chests, as they shouldn't. They're, a team shouldn't be coming out and saying it on record, and they shouldn't be. But it was pretty well stated, and they've done their job in branding the logic of why they've done this. Now, I don't think the logic makes any damn sense, and I think it's just filled with holes. You don't want a guy who's might get injured down the road because he doesn't take care of his body. Not to say AD doesn't take care of his body, but if you were a Laker fan over the last however many years, I mean, I have people just texting me or saying to me, at games or whatever, just like, hey, you think AD is gonna, last, or will he be healthy for the playoffs? I mean, that's always the big question. AD's durability, and they will owe AD a ton of money. We're not talking this year. We're talking about 27, 28. He has a player option for like $63 million. That's a roughly what you would be paying Luka at that time, within a few million. So I don't get the logic. I don't love that they're I don't really understand the trashing him out the door. Like, is he the vibe that we get is that, he's a prima donna, like he's being coddled by Mark Cuban. Like, find me a superstar in this league who doesn't have that, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, someone mentioned like, okay, Jason Tatum seems down to earth. Yeah, sure. Like, they exist, but like LeBron is a handful, and I'm not saying that in a negative. These are not criticisms. Like, Kobe was a handful. James Harden, handful. Like, KD's.
Magic Johnson got a coach fired,
exactly.
Eric, in '82.
Like, it's the nature of it. These are players who are worth tremendous amounts of, I don't know if money's the right word, but they generate so much income for the league. And like
Value.
the NBA is, looking at a league where LeBron and Steph will retire. Now, it might not be this year or the next year or whatever, but they're at that end of that run, and replacing them with the face of the NBA, that's a tough job. And maybe Luka's that, and maybe in LA that's where that brand is built. But it doesn't add up. There are pieces missing. I'll just wrap it up and say that, like, they're not going to tell us exactly what happened. The Lakers aren't going to tell us exactly what happened. It's not in their interest. Bill Duffy, who represents Luka Doncic, has no reason to go out and fight this battle. Now, Rich Paul might, and if it was his client, different style of agent, not good, bad, or otherwise. I think they're both brilliant at what they do. Rich Paul's more likely to fight this battle in the media and come back at whatever, saying whoever, whatever. But that's just not Bill Duffy's style. He's been doing this for like 30, 40 years. And he's not going to fight this battle in public. He's going to make sure his client gets what his client needs. So, there are missing pieces that maybe we'll learn more. I have various theories, but not enough to contradict what Nico and Jeannie and Rob and all these folks have been saying. I don't want to call anyone out as liars, because it's versions of the truth that we're getting.
Chris, just really quick, I
sure.
have to ask,
go ahead,
because you brought up a theory. Is there any credence to the theory of the Dumonts or the Adelsons moving the team?
I mean, there's theoretical credence to it. I don't think that's happening. If you go by rumor mill and gossip, which is what this is, the rumor and gossip is that the league has already promised LeBron a team in Las Vegas. Now, is that true? No, this is gossip, right? So put that in line behind the LeBron to Vegas rumor, and is it a real rumor? Of course, it's a real rumor. Real rumor doesn't mean anything. It's real nonsense, right? Like, so it could be true.
Sure.
The buzz is that the NBA doesn't want that, and that they don't want to have the team leave Dallas. And Adam Silver was pretty staunch in how he addressed that at the All-Star game, saying, as far within all the knowledge that he has, with everything that he has within his power, he has no knowledge of any effort to move the team. There's no push to relocate the team, and fundamentally that's true. But that doesn't mean that they're not planning to do it. Doesn't mean it won't happen. But right now, it's not on the table. So I don't have an answer for that. But I will say that it's certainly possible. But I don't believe that's what's going to happen. But that's here, February 2025. Maybe ask me again in a couple of years.
Exactly.
Yep. What's the story? The Zen Master and the little boy. We'll see, said the Zen Master. So we and I'm not talking about Phil Jackson either. Back on the basketball side, Eric. When Chaez and I we did a podcast the day after that this news broke, and we were talking about obviously who got the better of the deal. We were breaking everything down. I wanted to ask you, whose ceiling is higher with both teams healthy? Right, we know Dallas has got 3 injuries to their front court. So like the Lakers, they have a very shallow front court right now. But it has been argued by me, the Mavs in the short term, healthy, could have a higher ceiling than the Lakers. But the Lakers could have a longer or a higher ceiling in the long term because Luka being as young as he is, and the Mavs might need to catch lightning in a bottle quicker because of the aging roster, Anthony Davis being injury prone. So I wanted to kind of get your take. Am I reaching, or is there something to my theory?
I mean, the move was made according to Nico Harrison for the short term. Well, not necessarily the short term, but their chance to win. I don't know the answer of whether this works or not. It certainly is iffy. And if you want to argue that defensively, fully healthy, they're incredible, I can buy that. Like the Mavs with AD and Gafford and Lively, and you have Kyrie playing, the point and running all the offense. They have enough shooters and scorers. They're a tough team. They're well coached. You can make the argument that at full strength they're a beast, and I really like that team. The Lakers did this move for the short and the long, and imagine the Dallas will say it's for the long. I don't see how it is because of the age of Kyrie and of Anthony Davis. But the Lakers aren't in the long term with LeBron because LeBron is just by his age. He shouldn't be this incredible at this age, and we're witnessing something pretty special. So I think the Lakers have shown that they're better defensively than they should be. On paper, they shouldn't be as good as they are for the last 2.5 months, sort of coinciding with the D'Angelo Russell trade for Dorian Finney-Smith and then also getting Jared Vanderbilt back. He was gone all season with various injuries. When you start putting all those pieces together, they're much better than I thought defensively. I could see why with Austin, Luka, LeBron, Rui, Dalton Connect, that there are some deficiencies defensively in each of those players that it doesn't necessarily add up. Then you have Jackson Hayes as their only real center, and he's barely a real center. So I like what he's doing. I'm just saying he's not like a traditional, he's 215, 220. Sure. He's not like a big, heavy guy. But that's also good because he's more mobile. And the way that J.J. Redick has them playing, the way that they're scrambling defensively, like the offense is just, it's ridiculous. Like, once they find, once Luka's really back to just a better shooting percentage, which may or may not come for another month, and it may not even fully come this year. But if you just think about it from like a basketball point of view, the way that you stopped Luka in the past before Kyrie was to just trap him and get the ball out of his hands in the playoffs, make someone else beat you, and then they got Kyrie to handle that, right? So now Kyrie's the one who's beating you because you got the hands out of Luka. That's a tough situation, and then you put a bunch of defenders and lob threats, and you get to the finals, right? Well, on this team, if you double up on either Luka or LeBron, well, there's still Luka or LeBron. You're not going to be able to double those folks up. And then, by the way, you have Austin Reeves who can create. You have some shooters around the perimeter, Rui, to an extent, Dorian Finney-Smith, and if Connect is on the floor, Gabe Vincent's hot and cold, but he can shoot a bit. You start just going through all that, and it's like, I get why the offense should work. It's just the defense is the question. And if the Lakers continue at the pace they're going, then no, Chris, I don't agree with you. But I didn't expect them to be this good. And the Mavs on paper are sufficiently good enough to win the title defensively. Even with Kyrie, who's not like an incredible defender, he's good enough. And you've got, that team, I saw them the other night. That's a really, really good team. And I know Mavs fans are losing their mind, and I get it, I get it. But
And Eric, sorry to interrupt, but they're well coached with J Kidd. I want to point that out. Jason Kidd has done a tremendous job in his third stint as a head coach, but also too, AD before the adductor strain, when it got re-aggravated, 26, 16, 7 assists, and 3 blocks in 31 minutes before he went down in that game against Houston. Like, he was a monster in that game. And we were all seeing, and Chaez, I'll turn it back over to you in a sec, but I just want to point that out, man. What could have been before he re-aggravated that injury, because we would be singing a much different tune right now. Not to say that we'd be discounting what the Lakers are doing, but I think the Mavs would be right there with them.
Yeah, they're special. AD's a special player, so go ahead.
Yeah, they're going to be very, very good. But like Eric said, we didn't think that they were going to be being the Lakers this good this early, keeping the winning streak going. I want to touch on other teams in the NBA. The buyout market is upon us, and it's about that time of the year. The player that I've seen have the best effect that was bought out was Ben Simmons. He actually had a pretty decent game for the Clippers in a 5-point win over the Chicago Bulls. Do you foresee any other teams possibly buying out anybody else, or any free agents going to teams or a contender that might be able to affect the market, or I'm sorry, the playoffs um, on the buyout market?
Well, it's a good question. The deadline for the buyout market. Basically, you have to be cut by a team by March 1st, or as of the end of the day, March 1st. And there's a confusion because people keep asking me like, "Oh, does my favorite team have to sign this guy by March 1st?" No, you don't have to. You can't. It's not signing the guy March 1st. They have to be off the old team. You can sign them the last day of the season. You're good to go. So
Right.
I have no intel on the Hawks. Some people were speculating that Larry Nance might be, but I don't think that's true. He's also been hurt. I don't see anyone on the Nets because I think that the Simmons one was a good buyout. I mean, he's paying him whatever 40, whatever the hell they were paying him. That's not worth it. But paying him
Yeah.
like the minimum that the Clippers are paying him, absolutely. Usually it's a player in the last year of their deal that is unlikely to get a sign and trade this summer, and not many teams have cap room, so it's one of those things where, is there someone who's jumping out? Not necessarily. Like I'm looking at some of the quote bad teams. I thought Javonte Green was an interesting choice. He was
Yeah.
bought out by the Pelicans to go play for the Cavs. But like I'm just going through.
Made his debut the
I
other
don't
night.
like Bruce Brown. I think that they want to keep him. So there was
He's
some
staying.
speculation. The thing about Bruce Brown is he makes 23. If a player makes more than about 12.8, then they're not eligible to go to teams that are in the aprons. The aprons are, higher spending teams. So, for instance, the Lakers can't. The Clippers are under the first apron, so they could sign Ben Simmons. The Lakers are under the second apron. They can't sign someone like Bruce Brown. But I don't think he's going to get cut loose. Just going through all the teams. Most of these teams are still in the playoffs. There's certainly, you look at the Sixers and they're sort of deciding on what to do with Joel Embiid. He might be out for the year. The problem is Andre Drummond would be a candidate, but he has a player option next year for $5 million, and he's unlikely to give up that kind of money, at least in my opinion. So I don't think there'll be a
Yeah.
buyout there. Eric Gordon, same idea, player
He's
option.
hurt now too, I think.
Yeah.
Gone
Yeah,
for the
so
year,
he's done.
Eric.
He's out for,
Yeah.
I knew he was out, but I didn't know he was out for the whole year. That's brutal,
Yeah.
man. That team is.
I think he's having
I
surgery.
missed the surgery.
Yeah,
That's
sorry.
brutal.
Yeah.
He's been from the get go. That team has just been decimated. Portland again, like they have everybody they have is still under contract for next year. Some people have asked me, hey, what about Chris Paul now that the Wembenyama's done and he's done for the year? I have no intel to suggest that the Spurs would cut Chris Paul. He is making under that number, so in theory he could join any playoff team that can sign him to minimum contract. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Spurs want to bring him back because
He probably wants to come back too.
yeah, I mean he's in a
And he's a leader. Yeah.
So that's the one that jumps out. Some have thought about similarly Chris Boucher with the Raptors, similar number 10-8. So he is eligible to sign wherever. But there's also some talk that the Raptors might keep him and extend him even. And so I personally think their finances are a little out of whack. So I'm not sure they can afford him. And if that's the case, then maybe they'll buy him out. But they might wait and let finish the year out. Maybe that's a name to look at. I don't have any intel suggesting it's going to go that way. And then what's interesting about the Jazz, another team that's really really bad in terms of win-loss record. They don't really have any expiring guys either. Like they could cut Svi Mikhailuk, but there's no real reason to, and he's also the same agent as Markkanen, so sometimes you keep a guy around not necessarily for his play, but for his relationships.
And Clarkson isn't on an expiring, is he?
No. So Clarkson has
No.
14, a little over 14 next year. And then the last team to at least consider would be Washington. I could see them cutting Malcolm Brogdon, but I think he's been hurt too. I don't know how severe.
Yes.
And again, he's also at that 23-ish million, so he wouldn't be able to join a lot of those higher dollar teams. So I think most of the buyout moves have already happened, but I wouldn't be shocked if there's maybe one more to go. Boucher, if they don't plan, like if they're negotiating and talking like, hey, let's talk extension, and they try to get an answer in the next 2 days, and they're like, okay, we're so far apart, it's never going to happen. Maybe they cut him loose and he joins someone else, but that might be the extent of it.
Boucher's been playing well too in the last couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I just think a lot of these teams that like a team like New Orleans is not going to buy out Bruce Brown when they have their own financial issues as well. I don't think teams want to justify having 16, 17 million of dead money on their books. I just think that also plays a part into it. Eric, we really appreciate the time. I got one more question, and you know what? I'm just going to come right at it. Who's going to the finals in June?
Well, I mean, you kind of have to give the Celtics sort of the nod just based on precedence, right? This is the defending champs, so I don't usually rule out the champs unless there's been like a serious injury or change of personnel, and there isn't. Same team, and they're arguably better. I don't know if their record is better, but I would argue they're better. I think they pace themselves a little bit. But Cleveland, man, they look so good. So one of those two out of the East. Sorry, New York. Sorry, everyone else. I think that's
what it is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe those teams can get to the second round, and I just struggle to see them getting past those two. But it's not a lock by any stretch. The West is so much harder because, as great as the Thunder are, they're not a proven playoff team. They don't have years of 2-3 years. Usually, it takes 1, 2, 3 years to get to that point. Like the Warriors, I remember when they lost to the Clippers. It was like the first time I noticed Draymond Green. I'm like, who the hell is this guy like stopping Blake Griffin? And then Steph gets magical, and I'm like, wow, this is like the first guy since Kobe doing this kind of crazy like just hitting every shot. No matter what he touches the ball, it's going to go in. And I hadn't seen that since Kobe. And so, but they struggled it until they broke through. And the Thunder got like a taste last year, but just a brief taste. And so I do think they're the favorite in the West just based on who they are. But man, like it's wide open. And if Lakers think there's a credible shot, the Nuggets have a credible shot. I don't think the Nuggets are as good, but Jokic is just like the best player on earth right now. So you got to pretty much at least open that door. I don't know about anyone else. I'll give the Warriors a puncher's chance with the Jimmy Butler acquisition because, again, Steph is magical. Jimmy's kind of an anomaly guy, and Draymond's these are not guys who fit into any sort of predictive analysis. Like they're kind of
were Dubs before Grizzlies or Rockets?
I don't trust the Grizzlies. I don't think the Rockets have the offense. I don't think the Grizzlies. I just don't trust the Grizzlies. I think they're good, but I think that they're going to struggle past the second round. And the Clippers, again, I can't trust Kawhi's health. Minnesota hasn't been good enough. Dallas, if they got AD healthy and really, all the other guys come back, because the other guys aren't coming back until like April. AD should be back in March, but the other bigs aren't. But again, like if you're there, you got to go through the play-in. It looks like the teams in the play-in are Dallas and Golden State, Minnesota, but the Clippers at 6, they just need to hold these teams off, and they're right on the edge. So one of these teams will catch the Clippers, or the Clippers will be 6. Everyone else has to go through the play-in, which means the Rockets, Lakers, everyone above probably, just based on number of games left. Unless, look, if any of these teams just completely, like Lakers, Rockets, Denver, whatever, Memphis, if they just lose a crap ton of games to get caught by these teams, then they ain't doing anything in the playoffs
anyway.
Right? So,
I agree with that.
That means there's an injury. That means that the team fell apart. So it's got to be one of these teams getting through the play-in, and if you get through there at the 8th spot, you got to get through OKC. If you get, maybe that would be a fun matchup though. OKC Dallas with AD healthy.
Again, yeah.
Rematch of last year's second round. Yeah,
obviously no Luka, but it's AD is a bit more of a problem. LeBron and AD were a problem for OKC the last few years. So it's an interesting question. So I look forward to seeing it. I think we've got a great 2 months of basketball ahead of us. I mean, obviously the bottom feeders who are focusing on the lottery, you're going to see some crappy basketball. That's always the case. Yeah. And then once teams get their seedings locked in, they tend to pace it a little bit. They might sit some stars. by and large, though, we have enough competition that I think we'll see some really fun basketball in the next couple of months.
Eric,
Time of
really
year.
appreciate. Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun time of year. Eric, really appreciate you having being on with us. And if there's anything you want to plug, man, feel free.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Well, of course, you can always find my work on Bleacher Report. I'm on Twitter at Eric Pincus, ERICPINCUS. I guess it's called X now. I'm on Blue Sky. I don't even know my handle off the top of my head. It's similar. It's on my articles. I put it at the very bottom. I just added it on. And then also with Sports Business Classroom, we have a program that starts in July. It's at Summer League in Las Vegas, and it's called. It's basically helping young or older people changing careers get into basketball. And we have focus on salary cap, scouting, video analytics, media broadcast. I'm partnered with Bobby Marks on it of ESPN, and our registration, actually the early bird registration, which is a little bit cheaper, opens up on March 1st. So check that out at sportsbusinessclassroom.com. We also have some web content if you want to learn the CBA from Bobby Marks. It's really a wonderful resource if you're interested in nerding out like I do 24/7. So check it out.
Nice. Shout out Bobby Marks. Well, thanks again, Eric, for coming on the show. We'll probably have you on again, hopefully later on this season, the playoff. We'll talk a little bit more. And again, thank you.
All right, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it, man.
Another great
good times,
show, man, with another good interview. Eric dropping nothing but dimes of knowledge on us. Man, he knows the CBA, he knows Cap pretty good, he knows the whole NBA. So, man, love when we have good guys that come on and just educate us and our audience even more. Man, Chris, we touched on it a little bit with the Grizzlies, but and the Rockets and everything like that with Eric Pincus, but there are some other teams that aren't doing what they should be doing, and that's the Suns. If it wasn't for, if it really honestly wasn't for the Philadelphia 76ers, the Suns would be the story right now because they go down again, this time in overtime, 151-148 to the Grizzlies on the road. And Chris, I don't get it, man. This team just continually loses game after game after game. They've won, I think, 2 of their last 10 games. And they're in a free fall, currently 3 games out of the 10th spot. They may even miss the play-in. What do you make of the Suns? And do you think KD gets traded this summer?
First of all, yeah, they are a train wreck. I came into the season thinking they finally shored some things up. They shored up their front court. They shored up their back court. They shored up their depth. They kept 2 guys that were really good role players and complements to KD and Devin Booker and Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. And I thought, okay, this team has a chance to do something. But it doesn't, and they changed head coaches, Chaz. They fired Frank Vogel after 1 year, and they bring in Mike Budenholzer, which was not a huge, big-time upgrade. I mean, Bud's a good coach, a championship head coach, and it is just completely foundered. And they do not defend at all. They seem to have a hard time getting the 3 of them to play well together. Even though the numbers are good, like on paper, all 3 of them played great yesterday, meaning Booker, KD, and Bradley Beal. And yet, they just cannot play any defense. They don't really know who they are. They tried to shore up their front court. That's not working. At this point, they are just in a, like you said, they are in a free fall. And they may be good enough, Chaz, to go on a little bit of a late run and get into the play-in tournament, but I don't see them going much further at this point. I mean, they are who they are. You're not going to drastically change over the next 24 games. And, Kevin Durant, once again, doing that thing where, a little passive aggressive, and some of it's media and social media driven, but I think his days in Phoenix might end up being numbered. I mean, we saw a lot of noise at the trade deadline next to his name, but nothing. But I think those talks will definitely be revisited next season, especially I think when he's in the final year of his contract.
Yeah, I think, who is it? Brian Windhorst, who was on NBA Today, pretty much said that the Suns are going to be trading KD. It's the only asset that the Suns can move and
that's movable.
That can get better. They're not going to trade Booker. Beal has a no trade. KD has some value, but only 1 year left on his deal. Work with him, get him out of there, and let's see what happens. But anybody who thinks that they're going to just run it back or Bill is gonna waive his no trade clause. My homie JJ, he's out of there. KD is gone. So where he ends up,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that on another pod, on another show. And who makes it out the East, Chris? We'll talk
Mm.
about that next week. I think we got some really good games um, coming up this weekend, and the Cavs will play the Celtics by the time we come on next week. So I think we'll just table
Uh,
that topic for next week.
Okay. All right. All right. I was going to say I was ready. I was ready to take a side of a team that just by the very name of it makes me want to vomit, or at least, like Christine Taylor said in Dodgeball, I just vomited in my mouth a little bit.
Just a little bit,
That's fine.
just a little bit. No, but Eric,
No, but if you want to table that for next week, I'm cool with
yeah,
that.
Eric Pink has dropped a ton of knowledge on us. So we got a great show, another great show for you guys this week, and even more next week because we'll get into that Cavs Celtics topic. And we'll also get into next week Quarter Goal, the Netflix documentary. I really want to talk about that because for
Okay.
those of you that have not seen the documentary, please go do so on Netflix. It's a really good documentary talking about all the teams, not all the teams, but all the main teams: Serbia, France,
Fine.
Team USC, USA in the Olympics last year. So very interesting. We'll get into that. But man, another great show, man. I love the knowledge
Yes,
that
sir.
we can
That's
get
fun.
from each other and somebody like Eric talking about what's really going to happen. And we are in the best time of the year for basketball. And if you like to bet, I'm gonna start giving out some picks again. So I think
Mm.
I'm gonna start back to doing that next week, Chris. I think I was giving
Okay.
out some
Get picks or die trying
picks.
doesn't just apply to football,
I
everybody.
think
It applies to the hoops
I'm
world.
gonna start giving out some NBA and college plays because I've been having some good weeks. I gotta share the wealth.
And let me say one more thing about Eric and me's interaction. What's funny, Chaz? I met him. I was about 24, 25 years old, and what's funny? A lot of those LA Defender games, the G League games or whatever. Back then it was D League. Now it's G League. They used to happen a lot like on the weekends, Friday, Saturday night. So while people that I know are partying and drinking and living it up, everyone was like, well, where are you going to be at? I got credentialed to go cover, basically a D League game. And I got to learn from guys like Eric Pincus and Harrison Fagan and Joey Ramirez, who Harrison Fagan was on Silver Screen and Roll, I think. And Joey Ramirez has done a lot of great work on Lakers.com. So that is where you make contacts, even in some of those smaller games. It was basically the Lakers practice facility where they still have their games, but it's a little bit bigger now. But Eric was so cool. He didn't have to be cool, but he was. And that kind of gives you a little bit of confidence to be yourself and to make contacts with people and to just try to grind and make this a living or make this a lifestyle or whatever you want. And it's been obviously a tough road for both of us, but when you see a guy like Eric who's been doing it for a long time and at a high level with different with different platforms, and now he's teaching a sports business class, I mean, just kind of goes to show you who he is, not just as a person, but just as a worker as well. So I just wanted to point that out one more time.
Absolutely. Shout out Eric. Shout out anybody that comes on our show. We really appreciate it. And shout out to you guys for tapping in and watching the show on a weekly basis. Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week. You guys know where to follow me at Chaz Pearson on Instagram and Twitter, at Chris Camello on X. Chris, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
I just wanted to say congratulations, Diana Taurasi. She recently retired from the WNBA, one of the greatest women basketball players or
First
basketball players,
ballot.
period, to ever play. First ballot Hall of Famer, definitely, when it's her time. And the WNBA's all-time leading scorer. What's funny? My neighbor played high school basketball against her in the late 90s. That's how long Diana Taurasi's been playing competitive basketball. So shout out to the quote-unquote white mamba, a phrase that she coined herself to
Man,
Kobe. So I just wanted to throw that in.
wha-
Yeah, excellent
one of
career.
the greatest. And a special RIP to one of our own of our generation, Chris. Supposedly she had a liver transplant and she had some complications from that. Um, from the show, what show was that?
Uh, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Gossip Girl, Harriet the Spy the
She
movie, and Eurotrip the movie.
she
Yeah,
she
Michelle
she did
Trachtenberg.
it. Michelle Trachtenberg. R.I.P. to her, and uh, shout out to anybody that is friends or knew her or anything like that, because she's definitely one of a kind. Beautiful, beautiful, and gone way too soon at 39. Uh, Appreciate you guys tapping in with us, and we'll see you next week. Peace.